So, good evening and welcome to Real Talk. Real Talk is our Sunday night kind of get together to offer little educational opportunities for nannies, for newborn care specialists, postpartum doulas, and for parents during what can be a very challenging time. And our goal is to bring on experts, people who in their field really know what they're doing and what they're talking about, and provide opportunities for all of us to learn as we're going through a very unprecedented time. So we decided that we wanted to offer this and make it an opportunity for people to really learn. And tonight I'm super excited to be bringing to you Sue Downey. Sue currently is a nanny and has been a nanny for many years. We'll put her bio up on our feed there so you can take a look at it. But part of the reason why we reached out to Sue specifically, Sue and I have known each other for many years, and we joke all the time about trading children so that I can take care of the little ones and she can take care of the older ones. But she has a really kind of special and unique insight into teens and preteens, and has a way of handling all this with a little bit of humor to go along with it, which goes a long, long way for all of us. And so we asked Sue to come on tonight and to kind of share some insights with us, some real issues and real solutions for working with kids kind of in this a little bit older age group, kind of 9 through teens, and give us some insight, because I know babies all day long, but I don't always know this age group, even if I have 2 of them myself. So welcome, Sue, to Real Talk. We're super excited to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know that anyone is an expert at this age group actually, but I'm going to give you a few ideas. I'm going to quick go through just a couple of general things, and then we have some questions. And if you have questions too, you can comment, and Tanya will share them. So I'm going to share my screen really quick, and just pull up a couple of slides just so that I would remember to give you some basics. So when you're on lockdown with teens and tweens, mostly what you're going to need is a good sense of humor too, by the way. Like really, it's going to be crazy. So a lot of the concerns are, first of all, that developmentally, this age group, you think that they would be able to understand this crisis, but we have to remember developmentally, they are sure that nothing bad is ever going to happen to them. Developmentally, they're risk takers. Developmentally, they're challenging authority. Developmentally, this today is what's important. It's not until those later 17, 18, older teens are thinking of the future. But especially if you're having 9, 10, 11, like they're not thinking past maybe, next week. So that's hard. So compliance is going to be hard. That's why we saw all those spring break trips, at the beginning of this with those older teens, and why I still was doing some research for this. And there's still a lot of parents struggling to keep their teens, really following the rules of social distancing, and not, one parent says yes, and so then all the kids think that they can do that too. Right. So that's a big concern. Mental and physical health, and especially the mental health part, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, but we're all having some mental health crises, right. But it may be difficult, especially with this age group, to sort of see things. And we know that this is an age group where those problems that may be underlying genetic or whatever problems that have nothing to do with this crisis, they sort of pop up in these age ranges. So it can be a bit of a concern. And then we all know that this is a very social time for kids. And so what we're basically doing is depriving them of maybe one of the most important parts of their development right now, that social interaction at a crucial time. So it's really important to just remember and to take a deep breath and extend some grace when they're behaving developmentally appropriate. So typically, like, for example, the sleep is a big one. Teens are supposed to be getting 9 hours of sleep. Like, that's where they're supposed to be. teens and tweens, like they start needing more sleep, and most teens don't get that. So if they are sleeping 9 hours a day right now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's a good thing. That's a good piece of self-care, remembering that they are looking for independence and all of that. So the first thing is setting a few clear and consistent expectations. Obviously, schoolwork is an important part of it, and that's an expectation that there's no wiggle room in. There's some authoritarian parenting that you might not have to do normally because it's built into the system. But now you're going to have to be clear. The schoolwork is important and it has to be done. Your rules about technology are going to change. And again, we can talk about that. But there are going to be rules about technology and what that means, and that you might need to come up with them together as a team. And again, we can talk about that in a minute, but there are going to be expectations regarding that. It's not just free for all. That it's important that all the members of the family, from the youngest to the oldest, have procedures and rules in place. Like, we're going to chip in and do laundry because we don't have a housekeeper coming anymore, or we're going to take turns walking the dog or cleaning a bathroom, or all of those things. Those expectations need to be clear and consistent, and not just for the teens, but for everybody in the house. And so it'll be important for you with your teens to show that it's everybody in the house. I'm going to post something and say, look, mom's taking her turn doing this job too, just like everything else. And that mostly that you expect that they're going to participate. Their involvement in what's going on right now is wanted and needed, that they're going to help set the rules. They're going to help participate in what happens in the family. And that is going to give them a sense of independence and a sense of being valued as an adult, or adult, but valued as a member of the community, which is going to be important because they're not necessarily getting independence in different ways that they might be out in the world. So a few actions that I put together, and these are sort of general, and then we can talk about the questions, is to find ways for social interactions to happen despite this lockdown. That's where new rules for technology are going to come into play. Zoom chats. If you don't like Zoom, there's Google, there's FaceTime, there's a whole bunch of different ones. Zoom now has fixed some of the bugs, or they're working on it, but you can also password protect your rooms. If you Google like how to make them safe, there are ways to do that. I know that some parents had some concerns about Zoom, but they are working on that. Texting, FaceTime, those kinds of things. I think you have to figure out a new normal that everyone's comfortable with. But obviously that's going to change, and you're going to give them. But that being said, I actually also talked to a friend of mine who is a counselor and works with a lot of teens, and she gave me this great suggestion, which I think is perfect. If you're concerned about technology usage and social, make sure that they're keeping it not toxic. So just generally talking is good, but that can lead to toxicity sometimes, as it does when there's no problems. So giving kids some extra time to use technology, but setting them forth in creative ways. So instead of just chatting while they're playing video games, maybe they have a talent show on Zoom with their friends. Or she was talking about doing costume parties, or recreating paintings, or finding ways to be a film festival or something, using the new Netflix on Chrome. You can watch movies with a Netflix and chat with it. Finding creative ways to use technology so that they're interacting in positive ways instead of just giving them extra time can be helpful. And making silly videos and sharing them. They don't have to go on sites like TikTok. They could just share the silly videos with each other in a Google Hangout or on a FaceTime chat or something like that with people that they know. Proactively, you're going to want to watch for warning signs of depression. But here's the problem. You have to kind of know these kids. So if you're a nanny with kids that you haven't really interacted with, you got to get to know them a little first and talk to parents about where their baselines were, because what are the warning symptoms of depression is loss of appetite or excessive weight gain, like they're eating too much. Well, we're all doing that. We're all eating too much. And we're all also, some of us are not eating because we're stressed. And anger or misplaced sadness, yeah, that's happening for all of us. Like all the traditional symptoms, if you Google like symptoms of depression in teens, all of us are doing those right now in different ways. So be on the lookout and keep conversations started with those things with people that know these kids, so that you can watch for the warning signals. But it's really a change is what you're looking for, not just necessarily a stiff checklist. Establishing routines, not necessarily a schedule, like every morning at certain times. A lot of them with school have to check in at a certain time of the day or the morning, but then letting the family fall into a routine as opposed to a schedule, which means we're not watching the clock all day, but we know that we get dressed in the morning and we're not just staying in our pajamas every day. Maybe we have one day we do that, but most of the time we get dressed, and maybe most of the time we eat lunch all together, around the same time, and figuring that out. I thought this was really fun idea too. So there's all this downtime, right? Because school doesn't really take as long when you're doing it at home, and you're just have a lot of downtime where you're not out with your friends or at athletic practices or whatever. So this is a great time for kids to explore a passion, whether it's learning to play an instrument. There's a bunch of schools and iTunes and places that they can take lessons for free right now on a musical instrument, a guitar or ukulele, or singing lessons. Maybe it's that they want to pick up a new hobby. They want to learn to paint or take photos. Nikon was giving away free photography classes. Maybe you get out your old camera and send it loose with your teenager and say, this is a great time for you to learn this. Or maybe it's a time to say to them, hey, you're going to have to choose a career path in the next, 5 to 10 years. This would be a great time to, make a call out on social media on your platform and say, do I know any lawyers that have an hour to sit down with my teenager and talk about what it means to be a lawyer? Or do I know a chef that isn't working right now? And, reach out to those people and let your teenager sort of explore through some conversations, or even just some Googling research or YouTube research, where they're finding out about what careers they might want to do or might not want to do. This is an age where they're starting to be pressured for that. And now you have this big chunk of time that would be super fun. Maybe they want to learn new dance moves that helps move their bodies, and they can look them up on YouTube. A bunch of DJs are doing like happy hour times. Somebody was asking, by the way, so I don't forget, about how to get them moving, and that is a great way. Like all of these different DJs are doing sort of different times where they're playing music and spinning music for free, and so teenagers like that. And that's also something they could turn Zoom on the family TV or on a laptop and do together. Okay, so then acknowledging and sharing emotions. This is basic 101 that we talk about with kids from young to old. But the important part, I think sometimes we forget, is that for teenagers to really open up, a lot of times it's helpful for you to share your concerns and fears and be honest about them. Like, I'm really afraid right now. I take my temperature at least once a day, it feels like. I'm afraid. And I know scientifically that I'm not at a big risk. And I know all of these things are true with my brain, but I have fear. And admitting that to a kid and being able to just sit after you admit that and wait to see what happens, and letting them share their emotions. And then instead of trying to comfort them, just say, yeah, I get that. I feel that way too. Like, just acknowledge it, because there's nothing that we can do to really allay fears right now, because we don't know what's happening. There's very little that we can do or say, but just giving them the permission to feel whatever they feel is really powerful. We talked about giving them responsibility, and that means with their schoolwork too. Give them the responsibility of that, and then let it go as far as much as you possibly can, because that they need to be responsible and independent. They need to care about something, because that's going to keep their mind busy and moving forward, and helping them develop that independence. Um, and then getting everybody to monitor their health. So checking in with each other. Did you get outside today? Have you exercised today? And letting the kids see that you're doing that for you as well. Again, important. We're all sort of in this together. And the way I think, for kids to be more compliant if they're being, oppositional, is to show them that you're doing these same things too. Like, everything I'm saying is what you would tell an adult to do pretty much too. It's what we're telling 5-year-olds to do, and adults, and everything in between. The last thing is to ask questions as much as possible instead of telling. So if there are problems that come up, they're not compliant about chipping in around the house, or they're not getting homework done, or you're worried about something, asking questions about it instead of just telling. And not just a leading question, like, you can say, well, the bathroom's not getting clean. What are we going to do about that? That's totally fine. But sometimes you just need to say, like, what's going on with you? Because I noticed that, I've asked this sort of simple thing, and it seems to be a problem for you. And can you maybe tell me, like, why that seems to be a problem for you? What, is it that you're angry and you're trying to find a way to show that let them talk. Don't do what I just did, which is leading. But, just trying to ask a lot of questions, and getting to things that way, because again, it's that whole independence thing. So, yes. So, okay. Now I'm back to that, right? So there were a couple of questions that people asked ahead of time. So my preteen seems extra mouthy. Now they're home all the time. And I get that this is likely the stress of the situation. What can I do to recognize the stress but not allow the disrespect? So remember, I told you this is a great time to have a good sense of humor. Humor can diffuse stressful situations as an adult. You know that if you've been at a party and somebody says something super awkward, if you make a joke, then everybody laughs, and that releases the stress of that moment, and then you can move forward. So if they're mouthing off to you, you can say, wow, that's some attitude, or even just laughing at them a little bit, not at them, but like kind of with them in a loving way. Touch their arm and say, whoa, where did that come from? And then laugh, and then say, listen, I totally get that you're stressed, but we have to find ways to talk nicely to each other. I certainly want you to, let me know if I'm not talking to you that way, which you have to be open to, because we all are mouthy to each other right now. I don't know if it's happened with you, but it certainly has happened with me and adults in these situations lately. I think that, that's it. So I think if you can find a way to extend the grace, laugh, and go through it, then that's fine. If not, if you can't find a way to laugh, I think that trying to let some of that roll off of your back, but then when the moment isn't so tense, being able to say, listen, before you were using this tone of voice that really seemed disrespectful to me, and I just really don't appreciate that. I really want to help you with whatever you need from me, but I need you to speak to me in a tone that's not so disrespectful. My 14-year-old nanny charge gets his schoolwork done in like an hour and then wants to spend all day online. What do you think? Should I allow it? Well, I don't think all day online is a good idea. But I do think more time online is fine. I think the schoolwork part of it, depending on the school, and I've seen a wide variety, but if you homeschool kids at this age, they're not in school. Like, you're not homeschooling them from 8 in the morning until 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Like, that's maybe when they're at school, but it doesn't take that long when they're doing it at home. It's just not going to. And a lot of schools aren't even giving them that much work because they haven't figured it all out yet. So I think as long as the schoolwork is getting done, then more time online is fine, but it should also be tempered with being outside for at least an hour every day. Like, you've got to find a way to get them outside, and they need to be using technology again, and not just playing video games. Like that's fine because we're, again, that's fun. But maybe it's sitting down with them and making a plan and getting their input and saying, listen, I want to give you more technology time, but I feel like it's not really healthy if you're just, on your Nintendo or whatever the cool one is now, that whole time. So can we, like, what do you think is fair? Like how, what do you think is fair? And let's talk about, if you're going to be online with your friends, are you going to do it in a public place where, or do you need some privacy? Because that's an issue sometimes too, talking it out and finding where everybody's comfortable with it. But I think we've been telling parents with younger kids, it's, let's put them in front of the TV, just make sure the content is appropriate and good, the best that we can do. And I think that's what we kind of have to do with the teenagers right now, because they need to talk to their friends. They need to, have fun and offload the stress. The kids are already saying they're bored. This is going to be a hella long summer. Totally true for all of us. And what creative things can I do to keep them busy and not bored? Well, I think we talked about some of them. I think that the big thing for that would be to say to them, listen, let's talk about this now and come up with some projects that we can come up together, we can think of together. And maybe it's approaching it almost in the same way that you would with younger kids, where you might do a unit. Like for me in the summer with my 9 and 5-year-old, we've every summer since they were young, we've always sort of picked one topic for the summer, and we sort of do a lot of things around that. So if we're talking about the ocean, we'll go to the aquarium and do arts and crafts that have to do with that. And not every day, not every single thing, but it's sort of a theme for the summer, right? So that would be something fun to do with the older kid, is pick something that they're interested in, whatever it might be. Maybe they've always wanted to cook, like they like those cooking shows on TV, which those are really pretty tame and they're very fun, and it's something everyone can watch together. Maybe you watch a couple Top Chefs or Chopped, and then you do some Chopped challenges at home where you give kids weird ingredients and leave them in the kitchen and see what they can come up with. Or and then you talk to a chef, and then eventually, hopefully we get to go out to eat again. So like maybe it's just picking sort of a theme for the summer and going with that. Maybe it's having them do, think of a list of things right now that they've always wanted to do that may be appropriate, as far as like a movie marathon. Maybe we're going to watch all of the Star Wars movies in order, and we're going to spread it out over the summer. And then we're going to research about the cinematography and the special effects, and then make our own version of that. So I think you can follow their interests. And I think you're good if you're proactive on this, because it's going to be a long summer. It's likely that pools and recreation areas may not open the same way that they have in summers past. So I was just talking about, like, that's something that I do with my kids all the time in the summer. And that's not going to probably be an option. And if it is, it may look very different than it did before. Right. So we were thinking, okay, what can we do, to sort of think of other things that are going to be more appropriate that we can do now, and make a list. Maybe you put a piece of paper up on the wall right now and start making a summer bucket list, so that you can catch those ideas as they're coming on the fly. Let's see. I think there's one more. Oh yeah, 2 more. How do I make sure I don't lose my mind? I did not sign on to be a nanny to stay at home junior high school kids for 6 months. Okay, so take a deep breath. Okay. It's think of it as how you would survive a toddler. Toddlers and teenagers, same thing. They want the same things. So how did you survive being, a toddler? You took deep breaths. You tried to let it go. You talked to your friends about it. You complained to somebody who also has kids this age, so that you can offload some of that stress. You talk to your employers and say, I'm going to need a little downtime in the middle of the day now, just like I did when they were toddlers and they took naps. I'm going to need alone time. And so we're going to implement that again. There's going to be a time of day where I'm going to go and just take a break. And I know that it seems like I might not need one because physically it's a different thing, but mentally it's just as hard to take care of a 14-year-old as a 2-year-old. It's a hard job. So going to your employers now and saying, I'm not used to this. These are muscles I haven't had to use. And so this is what I'm going to do for my own peace of mind, and set up the schedule so that we all have a break in the middle of the day. Or maybe I was saying to somebody recently, I think with parents working from home, maybe talking to your employers about getting off a little bit early, or doing Monday through Thursday schedule, or talking and trying to be proactive about managing your stress level will be important as well. We don't know if camps are going to be able to open over the summer, so it's better to talk about this now because you have no idea. Oh yeah, and the normal things too, like this is good for your teens and for you. So like we started a journal in our family, my nanny family, where every morning at breakfast we write down some sort of, it has to be an appreciation, like a thank you to somebody, something we're thankful for, or a happy thought. We write it in the journal, and I've been putting the dates on them. And then we've also been using that journal. If somebody's angry about something, they can write or draw a picture in it. Or if somebody wants to record something, because I told the kids when they're old, they're going to be telling their grandkids about this. And I, want them to have some sort of record of it. Right. And even that would be a great project for a teenager, to record what it was like to be going through this, like either written or as a movie or as a video blog or something like that. But making it so that the whole family has a way to sort of be thankful for each other, but also complain and release that. So you may have to do that as a nanny too, either with the kids and the family or on your own. Like every morning on your way to drive to work, think of something positive that you can think of it. And even if it's just that you got out of bed and that you have a job, and then, be able to let off some of that steam. How do I help get these kids some exercise? So definitely the DJ dance parties are cool. I don't know the names of the cool DJs, but I know that I've been seeing them out there. So ask the kids to find them. And there were at least 4 different ones, including some really big guy in LA who was doing like an hour-long dance party every afternoon, spinning, and they like show the video, and they have, cool kids in pretty dresses or whatever. I don't know how they're showing that. Maybe they all are living in the same family, but anyway, there's definitely dance. I think definitely just saying we have to be outside. Being outside just invites more movement in general. So just having that option be available to them. I think you can use yoga or those kinds of videos on YouTube. And I think this is not my favorite advice, but if I'm going to have to do it when I'm with my kiddos too, is that you have to engage in that too. So they're more apt to do it if we're all doing it. If it's a family activity, we're all going to go take a walk, or we're all going to do the yoga, or we're all going to dance in the kitchen, but you can pick the music, whatever that is. They're more apt to be involved in that. It's hard because for a lot of these kids, their activity were team sports, and it's not really much fun to go outside and play soccer by yourself, or go do lacrosse, but like it's just not as much fun. So trying to find things that they can do. You can go to like a abandoned, like a closed school, and maybe play basketball. Like there are ways that you can find to tap into those sports kids, but it's hard. And I think you have to ask them, again, asking the question. We all have to be active for 1 hour a day, at least. What do you want that to look like for you? Like what's activity that you would like to do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, did I talk too long, Tanya? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're totally fine. I'm just sitting here soaking it all up because I have a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old. So I'm like, keep on talking. Ideas. When you said the whole, it's like being with toddlers, I'm thinking toddlers are easy. Give me a toddler any day, right? Um, but and we've done a couple of things. I love that your suggestions are so proactive. They're prepare in advance. We in our house we're real big on let's be proactive instead of reactive to things whenever possible. And I think sometimes we complicate this too much. One of the things that we did that was just really simple in our households, we just said everybody has to take the dog for a walk individually. The dog
That's
is getting
brilliant.
more walking than he has gotten in his entire life. So the dog is slimming down while the rest of us are eating.
Yeah.
Um, but it gets everybody up and out a little bit. And that's really beneficial. I love the idea also of having them explore a passion. I know that like a lot of the craft stores and things you can order online, you can drive by and pick up. I know even small stores, so some of our small kids stores and craft stores and toy stores, you could call up, talk to them on the phone and say, hey, we're interested in XYZ craft. And they literally are FaceTiming with you on the phone and going, okay, so we have this and we have this, and you pick what you want. And then you text them when you're there. You pay with a credit card on the phone, text them, you drive up and they load the stuff in your car and you leave.
Right.
And so there's ways to get those things in there. A couple people had put some comments in here I wanted to share with you.
Oh, good.
So Susie says, I think having children learn traditional math, chess, study a foreign language, or learn a musical instrument are all great activities to help children think critically and help them for the rest of their lives. And I loved a couple of these ideas because these are so many things that our kids are oftentimes not getting to do anymore because they are so busy. They're outside doing the sports, they're doing all these things, and they don't have time to learn a lot of these things. Or they're at school and there's only so many choices. And I know with one in high school now, every single decision that we make in terms of school is always from the standpoint of, well, how does this work for college admission?
Right.
Rather than what are you interested in? So now is an opportunity to explore those things. So if chess interests you, great. It's a chance to actually explore that and learn it. And that's something you can learn as a family. I
Right.
know we've been playing a lot of Scrabble at our house. Um, and then Jennifer said, I've been teaching the eldest one how to forage for food responsibly. And we've been cooking what we've foraged. Of course, you do have to know your local plants in order to teach this, but it isn't a traditionally considered life skill, but it should be. And I think the life skill thing is also an amazing
Right.
opportunity. So we started in our house a sourdough starter that is now 4 weeks old. And so we're making sourdough bread. So Remington's learning how to bake bread. And yeah, you mentioned earlier the housekeeper isn't coming anymore, so everybody's chipping in. My kid Remy's like, "What do you mean the housekeeper's not coming? What? What?" I was like, "Yeah, sorry,
Right.
girlfriend."
Well, yeah, and I think that well, two things. First of all, that's true. It's not just them exploring a passion, but sharing one of yours with them. Like
Mhm.
you got, you love foraging for food, so this is that's something unique about you that you can share with them. So
Mhm.
sharing things that you do that they may not know about, that's a great time. And then life skills, I saw a lot of parents were like, "Oh, this is a great time to teach them how to balance a checkbook." Maybe you give them control of the finances for the house for a month and show them how to write checks and pay a bill and um, fold a fitted sheet because nobody can really do that. But
I can.
oh, you're good. I knew that you could probably that you really could do all of that. But like all of those life skills that people change a tire. Oh yeah. And if you have a kid who's the right age, this is the perfect time to teach them to drive. There's
Mhm.
like very little traffic on the roads. You can take them to empty parking lot if they don't quite have their permit yet and teach them how to just park the car. And what kid doesn't want to do that? Every kid wants to do that. Like it's a great time. My friend Susie had also suggested to me, this is a great one, doing a soundtrack to their life, like using music to tell the story of their life, giving them all those family pictures and letting them go through the family pictures and scan them and organize them and then put them together and making a slideshow. Like a
Mhm.
lot of teenagers would really enjoy that and having the creative process with that. Yeah.
And then we had one other one here. If chess has too high a barrier to entry because too many pieces have too many different move patterns for someone to learn from scratch for everyone, tack is a simpler abstract game because there's only two pieces, types, and moves to have to remember at once. Or backgammon, which is another
Okay.
abstract game. I haven't played backgammon in years. I hadn't even thought about backgammon.
Yeah, you can't get puzzles or board games right now from Amazon. Like they're all sold out of all of them because
Right.
people are doing that. And I think all age people. And
Mhm.
that's a great time to talk when you're doing those puzzles or playing board games. That's a great time to that it's easy to sort of share. It's the same as being in the car,
Mhm.
right? Like a lot of times your teenagers never or older kids, they never want to talk about anything unless you're driving in the car because you don't have to look somebody in the eye necessarily and the focus is on the game. And so then it doesn't feel so spotlight like tell me everything you're feeling. So
Mhm.
playing games or doing some sort of family activity like that is great because then you can sort of be like, oh yeah, so how was your day today? And just sort of leave it open and check in with them. So it's just really important to remember that there's not a normal now. Like this is the definition of not normal.
Mhm.
And so everything that maybe you typically would necessarily expect from them is going to be different and everybody's handling the stress in a different way.
Mhm.
So giving grace, having a fair amount of patience, deciding on which hill you're going to die on is really important right now. Is it
Mhm.
really important that they make their bed every day?
Right.
Like what is important, and if it is, that's fine, but you need to make sure that you are clear in the expectations that are most important and decide what those are together in some sort of dialogue, because
Right.
otherwise you're going to spend your whole time trying to keep a stressed person doing things that they have no interest in doing, and
Mhm.
you don't want to do that right now, and they're no different. So
Yeah, nobody benefits from that
yeah.
for sure. Any final thoughts that you want to leave us with before we finish up tonight, Sue?
No, I think we've hit on most of it. I think again, like just deciding on what and try to laugh and remember what it was like when you were that age and that was not a time like this. So it's hard. It's just hard on all of us. And the most important thing that they're supposed to be doing has been taken away from that social part. So um you know and reach out to your friends because a lot of people are dealing with this age kids in close quarters now that aren't used to it, even parents. So we can all support each other as adults who are dealing with this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whether we're parents dealing with it, whether we are nannies dealing with it, it's uncharted territory for most of us. And so, yeah, it's a big thing. Well, Sue, I really appreciate you joining us tonight. I know that for me, I learned a ton because this is not my wheelhouse. And so I appreciate all the ideas. I appreciate really the proactive approach to things. I appreciated hearing that we're doing at least a couple things right. Um, so that's always great. And I wanted to remind everybody check out Palooza, for more information about the amazing work that Sue does in the nanny community. And there are some International Nanny Training Day events coming up in just a couple of weeks as well. I know I'm still teaching for two of them. I'm just teaching from my computer now. And I was always doing that for one, but
Yeah.
I know there's going to be some great things coming up, and I think Sue has some fun things planned that weekend as well. So that will be exciting. But Sue has been a longtime supporter of the nanny community, and we are really grateful to have you share your insight and your wisdom for working with preteens and teens during this very challenging time in our history. Um, Next Sunday is Easter Sunday. And so we will not be hosting Real Talk next Sunday. Normally we're on we're going to be on every Sunday night now, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. And we're going to talk about real topics, real issues, and real solutions to those things in order to provide ongoing support for the nanny community, the parenting community, the newborn care specialist, and postpartum doula community. And each week the topics are a little bit different. But next week is Easter Sunday, and so we will not be on next Sunday evening, so that for those people who observe Easter, that they may have that time to spend with their families and the people that they love, whether it's virtually or in person. So thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for joining us, Sue, and have a wonderful week. I hope the weather's improving in your area. It's been lovely here. So
Thanks, Tanya. Thanks for doing this. Everybody thanks you, I'm sure.
all right. So, all right. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great evening.